Good evening, everybody. I am excited to see so many faces here tonight, and there's quite a few of you that I actually know, so that's exciting. I will just start out by saying I'm going to do some introductions. I'm going to describe to you what you have in your handouts, and then I've got a PowerPoint and kind of going to give you an overview of what scheduling is going to look like for your student for next year. So my name is Nicole Cook. I'm one of the counselors here at Mount Pleasant High School, and I actually have the end of the alphabet. We split up students by alphabet, the academic counselors, and I actually have the end, which is P through Z, last names. So if your last name is P through Z, I will be your counselor. I'm going to point out our other counselors, Mr. Lazaroff right here. He has the letters H through O, and Mrs. Wilson has A through G. So we are your three academic counselors. So we're the people that are going to be working with you on pretty much anything academic. I also want to point out that Mrs. Willie is here. I'm pretty sure most of you know who she is. She is now one of our new admins. So she's here representing the admins from the high school. Okay, so now that I have introductions out of the way, I'm going to give you a lot of information. I've done this presentation for over 12 years. I'm going to try to go slowly as best I can. There's going to be a lot of information. The thing I want to start out by saying is, this is just the start of this process. We have several months to make sure that everything gets done the way that you need it to get done, to make sure you're in the classes that you really need to have. And so no need to panic. And I know you're all thinking, my gosh, you guys got on this real quick, right? It's January 4th and we're already having you think about your freshman year. But it's good for us to do that so that way we have a lot of time to make sure that you get what you need. Okay, your handout, the blue sheet, as you can see, if you scan that with your phone, that's going to get you to the scheduling resources on our high school page, the counseling page. That's going to give you a lot of information, everything from the course offering guide to, there's a couple videos on there about scheduling if you want to reference those later. The other thing that you have in your hand is a white sheet. At the top it says 4-year course plan. Now, I want to explain this in pretty good detail because I don't want a lot of confusion about this form versus scheduling. This form is not your student schedule, okay? This form is something that the state requires us to do with your student to get them thinking about what do they want to do for a career and what kind of classes do they want to take while they're at the high school that might fit into that plan. Now, as you know, having a 7th and 8th grader fill this form out is probably not going to be accurate to what might happen to them over that 4 or 5 years. By the time they get to their junior and senior year, a lot of times what they have on this form is not what they end up taking. It's the state's way of just having them start thinking about what is it that they want to take and what direction do they want to go in. So this is just a starting point. I don't want panic when they're like, oh my gosh, I have to have all 4 years figured out. What am I going to do? And then the parents call and they're like, oh my gosh, can I have a meeting with you? Because we need to talk about all 4 years and make sure we've got it all planned out. If you want to do that, I will certainly do that for you. But it's not 100% necessary to do that. We're mostly focusing on your 9th grade year, but the state requires this. So starting next week, some of your students will be meeting with the middle school counselors to go through this plan and fill this out. Once it's filled out, they're going to then input this into a program called Zello. And Zello is the program that we use so the state can reference that we've done the EDPs, okay? So then, once that's input, the only year that you need to worry about on this form is the 9th grade column. It's the left grade column that says grade 9. Again, the middle school counselors are going to go through this with your student, and also all of the high school counselors are going to be there starting next week to make sure that these get filled out and to make sure they get input into Zello correctly, okay? The other half of you are probably wondering, well, wait, when am I going to do this? The other half of you are going to do it the week of the 23rd, okay? So half of the students are going to do it the week of the 9th. The other half of the students are going to do that the week of the 23rd. So that's what this handout is. If you flip it over on the back, you're going to see a little sheet there that just has a list of all the classes that are available to 9th graders. Some of those are core classes, some of those are elective classes. It's just a nice handy form for you to see, because as freshmen, you are not able to take every single elective class that we offer. There may be a prerequisite for you to take those, and so if you don't see a class listed on this form, on this sheet, it's not a class that a ninth grader can take, okay? And that's just a nice little handy reference for you all to look at when you're thinking about scheduling. Okay, let's see, we've done our introductions. A couple of the people on this slide that are not here, Ms. Milky is our student support counselor. She focuses a lot on social emotional, and Mrs. Boyle does as well with Project Aware. But one thing I do like to make sure I mention to everybody is, even though the three of us primarily while in this building do academic counseling with students, we also are licensed professional counselors. Just like if you went out and saw a counselor in the community, we have those same credentials. In fact, we're school counselors too, so we actually have more credentials than they do. So just keep in mind, even though we're focused on academics, we're here to help your student in all ways necessary. The last person on this slide is Mrs. Greening. She is the career counselor for the tech center, and she would be the person you're going to talk to about a lot of the tech classes that your student might take. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, math, my nightmare. Sorry. So math is a complicated one. And the reason I start with math in this presentation is because it's the one that gets the most confusing. But what I'm going to tell you is what we highly, highly suggest, and this is for math and English, every class that you're going to pick that's a core, please follow the recommendation of your 8th grade teacher. Okay, if your student's current 8th grade teacher says, you know, my child, or says your child would be best taking regular algebra next year, okay, please put them in regular algebra. I know we all want our students to be successful. If they, however, are not ready and they end up in an honors level math class, it can set them up for a lot of heartache throughout their freshman year. So I would just say make sure that you're going by what their current 8th grade math teacher is suggesting. Now, some of you might already be taking honors algebra. Some of you might already be taking honors geometry. We might even have a student in here taking honors algebra 2. So your path is going to be different. Again, we're going to go and make sure that your student picks the right math class based on their teacher recommendation. So it's not something I want you to stress out about. This graphic is not the best visually. It's just a way for us to show you that there's a progression with math. So it's algebra in freshman year typically, but there are some of you that may be doing that now, and so your path might be a little bit different. Okay, if you have a question about that, I would again recommend that you talk to your student or students who are here, you talk to your current teacher about what they recommend your next step be for math. Okay, English. English, there are 2 options, classes that are required, okay? So you can do regular English or honors English. Typically we say, again, recommendation from teacher, but typically if you're going to do an honors level course, you should be getting primarily A's in 8th grade. Maybe a B here or there, but you're primarily getting A's in those classes. So those are the 2 options for English. Elective classes that are available for freshmen, there's actually quite a few English electives that students can take. You see that I have those listed there. Again, if you want more of a description about what these classes are, if you go to the QR code and you scan that, it's going to take you to the scheduling resources page, which will give you the course offering guides. And in there you can scroll through the course offering guide to get a better description of these classes that students can take for electives in English. Okay, science. 2 options for science. You either have biology or eco-science. Difference being, eco-science is considered an honors level science. The other difference is it is year-long. Biology A and biology B or eco-science. Eco-science is going to be all 3 tries, and it's going to include a try of earth science, which is a graduation requirement. If you take eco as a freshman, you already got the earth science requirement done. I will say again, This one's similar to math. Make sure you're really listening to the recommendation of your current science teacher as to whether or not they think that eco-science is something that you're ready for. I did list some science electives there. These science electives typically are going to be for upperclassmen, but I put those on there anyway so you can see a little bit of what you might be able to take as science electives moving forward. Social studies, 2 options, world history, honors world history. Pretty straightforward there. There are quite a few electives in social studies that freshmen can take. Again, you'll want to probably look those up for some of the descriptions, and we will be going through those with you when you're doing your EDPs and when you're putting all your information into Zello. Okay, world languages. We have 3 world languages, French, German, and Spanish. Spanish we usually have all 4 years of. The other 2 languages typically are going to be, we offer 2 years of that. It depends on as far as what students are interested in. If we have a lot of students that are interested in French, 3. If we have a lot of kids that request that, we might offer French 3, but typically Spanish is the only one that we offer for all 4 years. Keeping in mind, some of you may already be doing a language, maybe Spanish in 8th grade right now. It has to be the same world language to fulfill the graduation requirement. So if you start out with French and you switch to something else, you're starting over. Or if you start with Spanish and you don't like it and you switch, then you have to start over. It's got to be 2 years of the same language to fulfill the graduation requirement. Okay, fine arts. We have a lot of art offerings. You have to start with introductory art. That's going to be your prerequisite, but then you can take all sorts of other art classes. And of course, we have our choir program, we have our orchestra program, and our band program. So lots of instrumental bands. So we have lots of options available in the arts at the high school end of the building. Health and PE, 2 requireds, 1 try of health, 1 try of PE. So starting after next year, you guys, 12 weeks of PE. If you don't like it, you don't ever have to take it again, okay? However, there are a lot of options that you can take, especially in the health and PE for electives, if that's something you want to do. If you want to do more health or more PE. Okay, this slide kind of has a lot of info on it. But these are all the classes that our students have access to because the tech center is attached to our high school. We are one of 2 high schools in the state of Michigan that have their tech center attached. So we're very lucky and that our 9th and 10th graders have access to some of these classes down there. With that being said, there are only a few spots open for freshmen in the tech center. So you may not get a class that you want down there as a freshman, but it's worth requesting if you know, for example, gosh, you know, I really want to go into digital media as a career. If, you know, and it's something I really want to do, put Intro to Digital Media on your request form. I want to emphasize request, okay? We will do our very best to get your student the electives that they really want to take. Disclaimer is, sometimes it's impossible. We only have so many options, so many class periods in a day, and sometimes we cannot make that always work. Does that mean you shouldn't ask? Absolutely not. You should ask for sure. We'll do our best. So these are the list of all of the different things that students can take advantage of at the Tech Center. And again, Mrs. Greening is the counselor in the Tech Center. If you're not aware, the Tech Center is actually part of the whole RESD, so students get bused in from every single school district in our RESD. So those programs are not strictly for Mount Pleasant, they're for all of those schools. So there's a lot of students that come through that end of the building every day. Okay, here's a quick overview of how the high school might be different than the middle school, okay? The first thing that's different is we actually only have 5 class periods in a day. I think you guys, what do you have, 7? 8? Okay, I couldn't remember. It's been a long time since I actually worked over there, but it's been a long time. So we only have 5 class periods. They're 72 minutes. Each class period is worth a half of a credit. Okay, so in a trimester, you could earn 2.5 credits. In a year, you can earn 7.5. And if you look at that white sheet that on your handout, it shows those columns where each year is 7.5 credits. So what that means is you'll earn 30 credits by the end of your senior year if you do not fail any classes or if you don't dual enroll or whatever. But most likely some of you are going to do different things. However, the graduation requirement is 27.5 credits total. So trimesters are the same. You guys are used to that. So trimesters will stay the same here. Okay, so the Michigan Merit Curriculum. We'd like to just give you a little overview of what the grad requirements actually are for all 4 years. So mathematics, you have to have 4 credits total of math. English, 4 credits. Science, 3 credits. Social studies, 3 credits. 1 PE, 1 health, 1 credit of visual performing and applied arts. Keeping in mind that's not as hard to fulfill as you would think, because a lot of the tech center classes count for that, and you only have to have 2 classes total. And then that online learning experience, we got rid of that. You already get that enough, right? I think the last couple of years, I think we've all had enough of the, you're good. You're good with that. Okay, so world language, again, like I said previously, there's actually 2 options. First option for world language is you can take 2 years of the same language. However, let's say you're a student that says, well, my plan is I'm going to go into machine trades, or I'm going to go into auto. I don't plan on going to any kind of a university or college after graduation. We would say, okay, that second option is probably a better option for you. So you would do 1 year of a language, and then you can substitute the second year with tech center classes or visual and performing art classes. So maybe you're a student who is really into choir or really into band or orchestra, and that's what you think your career path is. Well, then you can take, instead of taking a second year of a language, you can take those classes instead. Okay, a few things to think about. So testing out. If you feel like you're prepared for some of these classes already, you can test out of any class that you want. Any class that you want that we offer. Okay? The way that you would do that is you need to contact our main office and say, I need to set up a time to test out of English 9A. What they will do then is you'll stop in and they'll get you a syllabus. It'll tell you what's going to be on that exam. Schedule you to come do the exam, which those are going to be the end of every try. So whenever you're having an exam week at the middle school is when we would be doing test outs here. If you earn a 77% or higher on a test out, you don't have to take the class. One disclaimer to that, sounds great, right? However, some universities, particularly the caliber like U of M, they do not honor test outs. So you want to make sure that you're looking ahead, if that's a plan that you have, that you're contacting those college admissions offices and finding out if they're going to take a test out. The other thing is, that will not count in your GPA, and it's going on your transcript as credit. If you took the class and you got an A, you're going to have 4.0 added into your GPA. If you test out, it's going on as credit only. So that's another thing that you want to think about when you're considering testing out. Okay, considerations. Obviously, we're going to make sure you get all your cores put in there. And with PE, that leaves you a little bit of room for a few classes of elective credit. A lot of freshmen will try to get health done and get that out of the way, but not everybody's going to be able to do PE and health. So every year, some freshmen don't get PE and some freshmen don't get health. And sometimes you just got to wait and get that taken care of in 10th grade. Just depends on how many sections that we have that year and who's teaching. Let's see, I think we've gone over all the electives. Couple sample schedules. This first one is a basic schedule, okay? Now, one thing I want to point out in this is it's not like first try, second try, third try. It kind of looks like that in this graphic, right? But your student's going to pick 15 classes, and those are going to fall in any pattern, anywhere. Okay, so for example, in this one, this student has English 9A, English 9B, but they might have English 9A and first try and English 9B and third try and have a gap. That can happen with math, that can happen with Spanish, German, French, biology. Some of them that are going to stay year-long are going to be algebra, eco, those are going to be year-long. But any of those classes that are run in 2 tries, there's a really good chance that there's going to be a gap in between. Even math, that can happen with sometimes. Is that ideal? Absolutely not. If you don't like trimesters, please attend a board meeting and talk to them about it. We would highly, highly enjoy not having to do trimesters, but unfortunately that's the system that we have right now. This student has health and PE. They got lucky. They have an intro to graphics thrown in there, so they got lucky. They got in 9th grade, they got a tech center class. So that's a basic schedule. This next one is going to be more a student who's taking some of the honors level courses. And one thing you'll notice, for example, honors geometry has that split where there's, they don't have it in the middle. Eco science is year-long. This student has orchestra. One thing you notice in this one is they don't have health because they can't make it fit. There's not enough room. This student has a world language in there though. We have in the past, at times, taken a student out of a trimester of orchestra or out of a trimester of band or out of a trimester of choir if they needed it to fit some kind of core in that they need. They don't like you to do that, but we can do that if it's something that you really want to try to make work. Okay, so this is just showing you the program that we're going to be using with your students. It's called Zello. Why it's spelled with an X, I don't know. It's kind of like xylophone. I don't know. But that's the site that they're going to be using to input that 4-year plan that you have in front of you. Okay. If you have questions from this point forward, we really like it if you email us. We're kind of still living in that mode where we're on our computers a lot. If you leave me a voicemail, I will get back with you, but I can guarantee you my email is going to come back to you a lot quicker. And I think that goes for the other counselors as well. I do want to say that, again, I understand how stressful it can be knowing that you have a student coming, especially if this is your first student. I have a 10th grader and a daughter who just graduated last year, and I was anxious for them to start as freshmen, and I have an inside scoop on everything. So I understand how much anxiety can come from that. I would just say communicate with us. If you're struggling with what to pick, what classes you think your student should take, we will meet with you one-on-one. You can bring the student with you. We'll sit down around the table and talk about it if that's going to be helpful for you. If email isn't going to answer your questions, or if you just like to have that face-to-face contact. So, did I forget anything, you guys?
Can I just say one quick thing?
Yeah.
One big thing, thank you for our counselors for being here after school too. I think Nicole did a great job. But being an 8th grade teacher, I know that your 8th graders got a letter, or they should be taking it home. You're nodding some of your head, some of you. If you didn't, you could say, where's that letter your teacher sent to you? So your 8th grade teachers recommended the core classes for your students if they are at Mount Pleasant Middle School. If they're at Renaissance, Beale City, Shepherd, different school, that's okay. Our counseling staff will be over. We're going to have some conversations with Renaissance, I think on the 24th. We'll be at the middle school next week and then the week after, and we'll help your students out in any way that they need that. But for the middle schoolers at Mount Pleasant Middle School, really look at those recommendations. Your teams spend a lot of time with your students, and they really know what classes they should be in. So I would encourage you to look at that letter. And like Nicole said, our counseling website is excellent, and I know Mr. Onstadt, who's taping this right now, this video will be there, and also the course offering guide. So we appreciate that you're here. Are you so excited, class of 2027? Crazy, right? All right, do we get a good go Oilers before you leave, kids? Yes. Should we make them stand up, maybe, get parents, and embarrass them? Okay. All right. Before you leave, a good go Oilers. Ready? 1, Abby Hicks, you better yell loud. 2, 3. Go Oilers! All right. See you guys later. Have a good evening.